Gamaldi, the president of the Houston Police Officers Union. Joe, clearly we are seeing extreme reaction in Minneapolis. No doubt some changes need to be made, but is defunding or even dismantling the police department the right move?
You know, let me be frank. Defunding and dismantling police departments, it's crazy and it is unsafe for our communities. I mean, and what does it actually look like to dismantle a police department? And I think you're seeing it a little bit right now with all the rioting that's going on. You have innocent citizens that are being assaulted in our streets, businesses being destroyed, and they've been defunding police departments across this country for quite some time. We are not fully staffed in our major cities. And what exactly what is that going to look like? I don't want to hear empty platitudes. I don't want to hear that we're going to reorganize in a community base. If someone is threatened with a gun and they're being robbed, what happens when they call the police if they disband them? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And from everybody that I speak to in our community, they don't want less police officers. They want more. And in fact, the polling shows that as well. Only 16% of people across this country actually support defunding or disbanding the police department. And is that where we are in America, that we're now going to allow 16% of the people to determine what happens? This is a completely irrational idea. Yes, we need to sit down and talk about reforms and things that we can do to make our profession better, law enforcement, but defunding and disbanding is ridiculous.
Yeah. Joe, since you're in it, you know what's going on with your police officers, you know what's going on in the community. Some people are just getting a glimpse of what's happening. We're seeing police officers responding to protesters out in the streets, whether it's choosing to interact with them or whether it's not. But that's just a brief glimpse. Would you mind telling us, what police officers are dealing with on a day-to-day basis?
Well, on a day-to-day basis right now, with everything that's going on with these protests, our officers are being yelled at, they're being screamed at, called the worst names possible. They're having bottles thrown at them. They're having bricks thrown at them. But let's be clear about something. Most of the protesters are just looking for change. They want their voices to be heard, and we encourage that. In fact, we protect their right to protest. And then we have rioters who are trying to destroy our businesses and assault police officers, and we should not judge all of those protesters by the actions of the rioters. Yes, that's a completely reasonable position, right? Let's apply that to law enforcement as well. We should not be held responsible for one idiot in Minneapolis, and now you condemn the 800,000 police officers that are out there on the streets doing a great job every single day. But I will tell you, I believe that law enforcement has done a fantastic job throughout this, especially right here in Houston. Our officers have been up against insurmountable odds, including 60,000 protesters just last Tuesday, with only 4,000 police officers to control that. They did a great job, and we should be commending the hard work and men and women of law enforcement right now.
Absolutely. I know when I've got a problem, I know I want to call a police officer who's going to be there and actually respond and pick up the phone because there is a police department available to do so. Really quick, Joe, the president is expected to speak to law enforcement officials today. What do you think he should say? What would you like to hear?
Well, I think what we'd like to hear and what we've heard consistently from President Trump is that we support law enforcement. And the whole country, the majority of Americans, love, respect, and support police officers. But we also realize that there's a little bit of work to do here. And I'm hopeful that we can come to an agreement on some common sense reforms, including a de-escalation standard and training that is nationwide. A lot of cities already do this, but I think that would be a nice step in the right direction. And I think to the public, I think what they need to hear is, we hear you. We understand there are things that we need to work on, but let's all sit down at the table. Let's take a breath. We know everybody is emotional right now, but let's sit down and let's have some common sense solutions to these problems so that we can all move forward.
Yeah, that's Joe Gamaldi. He's with the Houston police officers there. Thank you for the